The GR Corolla is not for everyone. In fact, it's the most misunderstood car on the planet.
I've owned my GR Corolla Circuit Edition since August 2023. And in this video, I'm going to share with you all the information you need to know before you might make a huge mistake in buying one for yourself. I'll show you how that very trick 1.6 liter 3-cylinder engine produces 300 horsepower, more horsepower per liter than a Ferrari 488 Pista. I'll explain that very unique all-wheel drive system and why it's such a huge deal about this car and why it's so different than most others. And you'll learn about this car's very unique assembly process in that amazing manufacturing facility in Japan that built the Toyota and Lexus's supercar, the Lexus LFA, and why that's so critical to this car's character. And since you might be considering this as a track day car, I'll also talk about its suitability for that, and I'll top it off with my honest owner review after daily driving this car since purchase. The GR Corolla's engine is an amazing feat of high-performance engineering with its small size and super lightweight. Anytime a small 1.6 liter 3-cylinder engine produces 300 horsepower, it's going to be very highly stressed. So it's going to need a lot more TLC than your basic Corolla 4-cylinder engine. Now keep in mind that GR Corolla is the handiwork of Toyota's performance and motorsports division, Gazoo Racing. Now this 300 horsepower, 273 foot-pound of torque, turbo inline in this very special Corolla uses the same engine as the GR Yaris, which forms the basis for Gazoo Racing's top-tier World Rally Championship race car. These engines produce the same power per liter as a Ferrari 488 Pista. How? The 1.6 liter turbocharged 3-cylinder engine is very special. Its open deck for advanced cooling, cast aluminum block, and high-strength engine components has allowed tuners to push them to over 500 horsepower. Each piston has 3 oil cooling jets designed to feed oil into the underside of the piston to cool them. In conjunction with the 10.5:1 compression ratio, which by the way does produce a lot of heat, the top end has 2 hollow camshafts, 4 valves per cylinder, and variable valve timing on both the inlet and the exhaust sides, which is commonplace on many engines of this type and size. But what isn't all that common is that each individual intake port is CC machined to optimize flow. The engine has forged connecting rods, super tough aluminum block with cast cylinder liner, and the crankcase is offset with a gear-to-gear mesh with a balance shaft which bolts directly to the block. The single scroll ball bearing cool and cool turbocharger is superior to journal bearing turbos because they give quicker response, resulting in far less turbo lag, giving fantastic throttle response. Now, except for the turbo whine, you barely notice that it's a turbo at all when you're driving it. The turbo and exhaust manifold are cast together in one piece and produces a maximum boost of 25.2 psi. Generally though, it's a very basic turbocharger installation, which is a good thing. And this GR Corolla engine features a timing chain like all premium engines instead of a timing belt, which is not something you'd expect in a typical economy car. Now you may be wondering, where's the battery? Well, the battery is moved to the back of the car to improve weight distribution to 58 front, 42 rear. On the Circuit Edition, under full throttle, the air enters in through here, comes up through, and then goes into here. Partial throttle, that doesn't happen, keeps the noise down. And speaking about louder, the exhaust system has 3 exhaust tips, which is another way to get more power out of the engine by reducing back pressure and improving flow. The center exhaust has a cutoff valve, but when accelerating hard, the cutoff valve to the center exhaust opens to give the exhaust better flow and, well, more noise. But now it's going directly through the muffler. The center exhaust also opens when the car is first started. Now, in spite of all this fantastic technology, it still needs oil and filter changes every 6 months or 5,000 miles with regular usage. Obviously, more often if driven aggressively. There's no exotic or overly special coolant or oils needed. Keep in mind though, when checking the oil, you do need to wait at least 10 minutes after shutting the car down, otherwise the reading will be inaccurate. You need to think of the GR Corolla as a North American street version of Toyota's GR Yaris rally car, which conquers street, gravel, and even winter's worst. That amazing all-wheel drive system makes all the difference to this car's character. Toyota's GR Corolla's rally-derived all-wheel drive system is incredibly special, resulting in a very special car with exciting performance. But what makes the all-wheel drive system so special? since Akio Toyoda, now Toyota chairman, helped instill learnings from motorsports in the developments of all of its production vehicles. His guiding message was to make GR models fit for the racetrack right off the showroom floor, which has resulted in GR Corollas having a very special flat-out rally car all-wheel drive system installed in a production car. This is a 3-mode system, which you can control easily from the inside of the car. On front mode, or default for everyday driving, it sends 60% of the power to the front and 40% to the rear. The second, or rear mode, sends 30% of the power to the front and 70% to the rear for some fun when trying to break loose the rear. And track mode for ideal balance, which sends 50% of the power to the front and 50% of the power to the rear for a very neutral experience. Now, how this works is the transmission sends power to the mechanical transfer case in the rear through a drive shaft, which is always spinning. The rear differential utilizes an electromagnetic multiple clutch to control the slip. The drive mode determines the strength of the magnet to determine how much the clutch engages. When in rear mode, 70% of the power going to the rear, the clutch is engaged the most. When in front mode, the magnetic force decreases and the rear differential is engaged the least. This all-wheel drive system was developed in collaboration with the Gazoo Racing World Championship team. And the dual Torsen limited slip differentials, like on the Circuit Edition, deliver exceptional levels of traction and control by optimizing drive power to each wheel, including the ability to split the power between the left and the right axles, so the car can apply maximum traction and distribute more torque on the outer wheels during cornering. And let's not forget the drive modes, again easily selected from inside the car. And by the way, Expert mode disengages the traction control completely. The GR Corolla only comes with a 6-speed manual with a super smooth clutch and transmission, not only when driven moderately, but even when driven aggressively. The clutch incorporates TAC technology, so the pressure plate adjusts automatically to compensate for clutch wear. GR badging is proudly displayed everywhere, including when you look through the grille, you can see GR4 proudly displayed. Don't make the mistake that the GR Corolla is just a Corolla with a body kit and a bigger engine. There's far more to it than that. The whole manufacturing process is orientated toward making this a very, very special car. You really need to understand how this car's unique and incredible manufacturing process contributes so much to the end product's amazing performance and its very unique character. Then you can fully appreciate how really different the GR Corolla is. This GR Corolla is built at the same facility that previously built the $350,000 Lexus LFA. This Gazoo Racing's factory daily output is a mere 49 GR Corollas. Why? Because these cars are essentially hand-built by Toyota manufacturing specialists called Takumi, all of whom have extensive experience at Toyota, with GR workstations arranged in semi-permanent cells that combine several of the regular Corolla's production steps into one. Welding the body shell together within a single jig gives the GR Corolla greater chassis precision than regular production methods. They use electric power tools rather than compressed air to lift and locate heavier sub-assemblies, which reduces cost and complexity by eliminating the need to run fixed airlines. In place of bulky conveyor systems, autonomous tugs running along the floor help shuttle partial vehicles from station to station. Workers check each machine's output by hand and push body shells around on dollies. The GR Corolla's solid feel and crisp reflexes largely stem from a structure reinforced with 9 extra feet of adhesive and 349 additional spot welds compared to mass-produced Corollas. While other Toyota products get welded together on a multiple stage chain of fixtures, the GR's body shell takes place on a single jig, greatly tightening its tolerances. The mounting points for each car's suspension are scanned and measured, and the data is used to match up individual components with complementary variances. As an example of the attention to detail, coil springs are measured and matched by minute rate differences for the best side-to-side balance. For each of the car's 4-piston front and 2-piston rear brake calipers, compressed air is used to measure their volumetric efficiency, again pairing them up for optimal balance. They're assembled into larger corner units with a separate jig, helping overlay the mounting point measurements of the various components with the body data of the cars coming down the line. The results are more precise alignment of bolt holes and tiny wheel angle variances compared with regular Toyota models. Combining the GR car's mechanical mechanicals with their painted bodies is again unique. Unlike regular Corolla production, GR model bodies are lowered onto the stationary mechanicals, which makes for a stronger connection by reducing the stress on the car's skeletons. Then assembled cars undergo an exhaustive array of motorsport-inspired verification steps. On the alignment rack, testers add weighted bags simulating 2 passengers and a tank of fuel, 165 pounds on each front seat, 55 pounds in the cargo area for ballast. Achieving the most accurate steering feel requires setting and then checking and resetting the rear axle alignment before making any tweaks to the front end. The GR Corolla's masterfully tuned brake pedal is verified for pressure and progression, followed by another round of chassis and suspension measurements. If any figures fall out of tolerance, new components and different wheels and tires are fitted, and the entire finishing process is started again. Only once a car gets a green light from here is it taken for a test drive and prepped for shipping. Often a product only becomes extraordinary due to the commitment shown by the craftsmen who do the assembly. If you speak to anyone at Gazoo Racing about the GR Corolla's essence as a driver's car, and their eyes fill with passion. For many, it represents a dream car that they themselves one day could own.
Now, if you like this video, now would be a great time to click that subscribe button down below. That way you'll be notified when all my new videos drop, and you can check them out for yourself. Hot hatches often end up seeing track use, but some are far better suited to the track than others. How does the GR Corolla compare? The GR Corolla can be a perfect track day car, but not for everyone. I own a 2023 GR Corolla Circuit Edition, as well as other track cars that I've used during several hundred track days over the last 25 years. I'm a track day instructor and completed open wheel racing school, so I know my way around a racetrack. Typically cars like the Miata, Mustang, Porsche Cayman, and Toyota's GR86 or Subaru BRZ that are front or mid-engine and rear-wheel drive are chosen since their handling is much more neutral than front-wheel drive cars like the Mini Cooper, Honda Civic, or Golf GTI. But those cars are often successfully chosen too. Lately, all-wheel drive cars like the Golf R and Subaru WRX STI have become popular due to their excellent grip on dry pavement, but also phenomenally more grip when the track gets wet. Due to its performance, all-wheel drive, and track-orientated features, the GR Corolla is now considered as a track day car contender. On paper and when driven on the street, the GR Corolla seems like the perfect track day car choice. That high-performance 300 horsepower engine, the very trick all-wheel drive system, which has a dedicated track mode, very stiff and solid body structure, relatively low price, make it look perfect right out of the box. But there's a problem. When the GR Corolla is being driven aggressively on track, typically after anywhere from about 15 minutes of use, the rear transfer case starts to overheat and shuts down, putting the car into front-wheel drive only limp home mode, resulting in less grip, poor lap times, and in front-wheel drive, you'll end up destroying those front tires in no time. By the way, limp home mode can happen at any time on the track, including mid-corner, so it could be quite dangerous. Then, after the car sits and the transfer case cools off, it will again operate in all-wheel drive until it overheats again. I witnessed this firsthand at a recent track day. I noticed a fellow instructor who was on track with their GR Corolla, and after passing them once in my Porsche, I fully expected to lap them during the 20-minute session, but didn't. But when I returned to the pits, I saw that they had come in early because, yep, you guessed it, the rear transfer case had overheated and it ended their session early. And by the way, this has not been fixed by Toyota in the 2024 or the 2025 model year cars. But it can be fixed by cooling the transfer case with a dedicated aftermarket cooler and replacing the all-wheel drive ECU to better control the all-wheel drive system so that it knows that the transfer case now has a cooler and will keep the GR Corolla in all-wheel drive mode. These modifications would cost about $4,000 to complete and would totally void your Toyota warranty. So why does Toyota market the GR Corolla as a track car if there's a problem with the transfer case overheating? Well, in fact, why in the US do they include a track day when you purchase your GR Corolla if this problem actually exists? Well, Toyota says for a beginner track day enthusiast, the transfer case will not overheat. Only when driven at the speed and level of aggressiveness an experienced track day driver would drive will the GR Corolla overheat and go into limp home mode. They say, and I have to admit I agree with this part, it's typical for sporty cars at this price point to need modifications when used for serious track day use. Things like suspension, tires, brakes, and the transfer case cooler and all-wheel drive ECU need to be changed to maximize the GR Corolla's use
on the track. So if you are and expect to stay a novice on the track, the GR Corolla is something you can definitely use for the occasional track day as is. But if you plan to be more serious, you need to plan to spend at least $20,000 in upgrades to make your GR Corolla truly track-worthy. Now, did I upgrade my GR Corolla Circuit Edition for track day use? Nope, because I don't track mine. It's my daily driver, and for daily use, none of those overheating or limp home situations occur. Personally, I like to leave my cars as stock as possible, and for track day use, I prefer my Porsche 718 Spyder because it's extremely track capable right out of the box. But for what you would need to spend on your GR Corolla plus the cash to make it track compatible, you can get a pretty sweet, slightly used, maybe 2012 to 2016 Porsche Cayman S, or better yet, GTS. That would be a better solution, again, right out of the box. So I purchased my GR Corolla Circuit Edition in August of 2023 as my daily driver. And this is what I think about it so far. Join me as we take my GR Corolla for a spin, and I'll share with you my honest owner review, my driving experiences, and my costs, including what I paid for the car when I originally purchased my Circuit Edition. I've owned and daily driven my GR Corolla Circuit Edition for 1 year now, and in this video I'll be sharing with you the good, the bad, and the two things that I absolutely hate about this car. Now, one of the biggest misconceptions about the GR Corolla is that it's overpriced for what you get. I've seen people comparing it to other performance cars in a similar price range, but the reality is that this exciting car is built for a specific type of enthusiastic driver. It's that it's often compared to cars like the Honda Civic Type R or the Volkswagen Golf R. While these cars certainly are very impressive, they're built to different principles for a different type of driver. The GR Corolla is designed to offer an exciting and engaging visceral street driving experience, while different from each of those and still hold its own on the track. But more about its track performance a little later. Now, the Civic is a front-wheel drive, summer-only track master, while the Volkswagen Type R is a much more refined, more expensive, heavier, and less exciting alternative. Actually, of the three, the GR Corolla is much closer to being an actual sports car, and it's much less costly and higher rated in terms of reliability than either the Honda or the Volkswagen. The suspension in the GR Corolla is much stiffer than either of those two competitors, and all-wheel drive is definitely the better way to eliminate front-wheel drive torque steer and understeer in a high-performance hot hatch. I'm looking at you, Honda. Actually, in a lot of ways, it reminds me of my old Honda S2000 from the early 2000s, at least for summer use. So if you're looking for an exciting summer and winter car that's a blast to drive, then the GR Corolla is definitely worth considering. I've also heard of people complaining about the lack of luxury features, but let's be real. This is a performance car, not a Lexus. Now, if you want all those bells and whistles, in addition to the performance offered by this car, you should be looking at an Audi, Porsche, or BMW instead, and be willing to pay the big bucks for one. With the GR Corolla, you get a four-door hot hatch that's focused on driving dynamics and performance. The specifications page does not tell the full story. You need to understand that this exciting GR Corolla is designed for performance driving with agility and handling and not just raw power. If you're looking for a luxurious and comfortable car, probably check out a Lexus instead. If you're looking for brute power, 5-liter Mustang is a better choice. I know of several owners who didn't realize the compromises you need to make with this vehicle and bought one as their daily driver, as their family daily driver. But immediately they were disappointed. That loud engine noise on startup and rough suspension and lack of space for backseat passengers and of course luggage is, well, definitely not for everyone. Keep in mind that this very special GR Corolla is built at the same facility that previously built the $350,000 Lexus LFA. This Gazoo Racing factory's daily output is a mere 49 GR Corollas. You can see that my Circuit Edition is one of only 181 built for Canada in 2023. Why the low volume? Because these cars are essentially hand-built by Toyota manufacturing specialists called Takumi, which
by the way, typically have 30 to 35 years experience at Toyota. The GR Corolla's solid feel and crisp reflexes largely stem from a structure reinforced with 9 extra feet of adhesive and 349 extra spot welds compared with Toyota's mass-produced Corollas. And welding the body shell in a single jig gives the GR Corolla greater chassis precision than regular production models. While driving, you can feel how tightly screwed together it is, making it handle really flat, and you can easily control where your car is placed on the road at all times. I'll get into how well this works while driving on the road a little bit later. And by the way, if you haven't guessed it already, GR stands for Gazoo Racing, Toyota's in-house racing division. Sure, you do get a solid enough infotainment system, heated steering wheel, and heated windshield, and a well enough appointed interior that's designed to keep you focused on the road ahead. But you also get some real bonuses that I just love, that you don't see on cars anywhere near this price point, like these leather trim bucket seats with their Alcantara or suede-like perforated inserts are really nice. And they especially hold you in place when you're hitting those twisties and keeps you from moving around in your seat. And check out this gorgeous carbon fiber roof. Now, it only saves a few ounces, but it sure looks cool. Now, these niceties are not available on the core model, or the nicer interior, or the upgraded sound system. Plus, the Circuit Edition has slightly less overall weight, which is why I upgraded to the Circuit Edition. And yes, I waited for a year to get mine, which was the only GR Corolla of any trim level my local Toyota dealer received in 2023. I definitely feel that the Circuit Edition is worth the extra cost, but since only 181 came to Canada in 2023, it was even more difficult to get than the core. That electromechanical limited slip differential makes a huge difference by supplying the power to the outside wheels in every corner, providing incredible grip and giving you the confidence to take corners hard and fast. The smooth shifting 6-speed manual transmission with rev matching downshifts makes it easy to drive, and with a small mod, it's easy to heel and tow if that's your preference, like it is for me. I'll highlight the few mods that I've done a little bit later in this video. And by the way, that clutch is self-adjusting, so adjust itself for wear. And what about an automatic transmission? Well, there's none available yet, but more about that later. This 3-cylinder inline turbocharged 1.6-liter engine is incredibly responsive and has an extremely wide power band, and you can really feel the power surging through this vehicle, especially at startup. Now it offers 300 horsepower, 273 pound-feet of torque, and will give you acceleration of 0 to 60 in under 5 seconds. And don't let the fact that it has 3 cylinders fool you. It makes more power per liter than a Ferrari 488 piston, but with Toyota reliability. And it's been proven both on the street and on the rally circuit in the GR Yara. Did I mention too that this car has a real handbrake? Such a great feature and much more fun in the winter than those electric emergency brakes. Now with the GR Corolla, when you pull that handbrake, the all-wheel drive system disengages from the rear axle but still keeps sending power to the front axle to really induce oversteer. For all you donuts and drifting aficionados, this thing looks really cool, but I just love that all the cool stuff is actually functional, making this a far better sports car. All of the vents are real and serve a performance function, like these hood vents. The flared fenders accommodate wider tires, front and rear, and that very cool and butch-looking rear end is not only good looking, but very functional. Those front and rear spoilers and the front underbody panels improve aerodynamics, but without sacrificing ground clearance, so you don't need to worry about scraping when you're entering a driveway or there's a bit of a dip in the road. It has more than enough ground clearance to deal with that, and there's hardly any front overhang, so no problems there. The rear diffuser and carbon fiber roof do pretty much nothing in terms of performance, but they sure do look cool. Those 3 exhaust tips are very cool too, since the middle one comes alive during startup and when blasting through the gear. The interior looks and is made from relatively cheap, but likely highly durable materials. But the touch points of the Alcantara suede-like seat inserts, the padded leather steering wheel, the shifter, the handbrake, all those things are really all you really need actually in a performance car. And by the way, check out those aluminum pedals. I've modified the gas pedal to make it a little bit wider at the bottom so it's much easier to heel and tow. The seats are comfortable, but they don't come with any type of lumbar support. And, well, the problem with the passenger seat, I'll talk about that a little bit later. And let's not forget the solid sound and feel when you're driving this car. One thing I found funny though is that pretty much every Circuit Edition I've ever seen has red stitching, red accent stitching in the interior. However, mine came with the gray stitching, like you see in most of the core models. Anyway, let me know in the comments below which you prefer, the red stitching or the gray stitching. I'm not really sure. I found the wireless charging dock for my iPhone works fairly well in the car most of the time. I don't use the GPS system. I kind of prefer to just go with Apple CarPlay instead, which again connects most of the time automatically. It is wireless, although when you plug it in with a wired connection, it does work better. The digital gauge cluster can be configured a number of different ways. The only thing that's somewhat peculiar with it is a lot of that configuration reverts back to the default every time you start the car. So definitely, if you like that reconfiguration, you're going to get used to doing it a lot, because every time you start the car, you'll have to reconfigure that dash again. But to be honest, those are things that I pretty much never change anyway. And as I mentioned earlier, this manual transmission does have auto blip. So if you're not familiar with, or you don't know how to heel and tow, or you just find heel and tow a little bit too cumbersome in this car, you just push in that auto blip button. But again, every time you start the car, you gotta push that auto blip button. In the interior, you do get everything you need for performance driving, but nothing extra, which you know is just fine with me. Now, I'm 6'2" tall, and I have plenty of room in the driver's seat. Lots of legroom and lots of headroom. In fact, I've even got more legroom than I actually use. But when we get to the back seat, well, it's a different story. And especially if you're the one that gets stuck sitting behind me. I guess I can kind of close the door. Oh, I can actually close the door, but yeah, it's incredibly tight. But the back seat does have seat belts set up for 3 people. Definitely not 3 adults, unless those 3 adults are 3 adult cats, but then I guess you wouldn't need the seat belts anyway. But for small children, it works extremely well. And the back seats are as nicely finished as the front seats, and they do fold down for extra space. I have to admit, I folded the seats down and carried large things back there far more often than I have actually carried people back there, of any size. So when you're on the inside of the GR Corolla, one thing you'll never forget is that you're in a GR Corolla. The logos are everywhere. I mean, it is tastefully done, and it's a cool logo, that's for sure. But they're everywhere. The cargo area is small, but moving the battery to the back has definitely helped with the weight distribution, which is important in a sports car. But that battery takes up a lot of height in the cargo area. So because of that, it becomes a lot shallower. Now, there are some extra little cubbies in and around the battery for you to store some things. And I kind of like these cubbies on either side, because for things like jugs of milk or orange juice, it's a great place where you can put them and they won't move around as you drive. The optional Toyota rubber mat for the cargo area and cargo net are 2 great options, and I find I use them quite a bit. The carpeting back there is pretty flimsy, that's for sure, and that rubber mat does a great job to protect that. And of course, the cargo net is a great way of securing smaller things in there. The technology accessed from inside the car is very cool. Adjusting the all-wheel drive system's torque split is definitely this car's party trick. You can adjust it from 40-60, 40% front, 60% rear for normal driving, to 30% front, 70% rear for you donut and drifting aficionados, or you can go into track mode, which is 50-50. How often do I use this? Almost never, but the technology is very cool. That exhaust noise on startup is very cool, but where it gets really exciting and interesting is between 4,000 and 6,000 RPM. That's where this car comes alive. And it stops as well as it goes, with the 4-piston, 14-inch vented grooved discs up front and 2-piston, 11.7-inch vented and grooved discs on the back. But for some reason, those brakes produce massive amount of brake dust. And I mean, I've never seen so much brake dust in all the vehicles that I've driven over the years. And well, I mean, maybe that's why the only wheels that come with it from Toyota are black. So you don't notice it so much. Together with that body rigidity, the all-wheel drive system, those brakes, and these Michelin Pilot Sport 4 high-performance tires, this thing attacks twisty roads like a true sports car. One of the standout features of the GR Corolla is the steering. It's incredibly precise with a level of feedback that lets you know exactly what the wheels are doing at all times. You can feel the weight transfer as you corner, and the car responds beautifully to any driver input. It's an incredibly exciting drive, and I find myself smiling every time I get behind the wheel of this thing. This Mustang's enjoying the sunshine, maybe enjoying it a little too much. There he goes. And let's not forget the fuel economy. Now, I get average around 24 miles per gallon, and that's with mixed driving, which is actually pretty impressive for a performance car. But just keep in mind that you'll need to use much more expensive premium fuel in this car. But what really surprised me about the GR Corolla was its ability to adapt to different driving types and different driving styles. Aren't these roads just gorgeous? When cruising down the highway at 65 miles per hour in 6th gear, the ride is quite quiet and quite relaxed, but you'll soon find yourself taking the long way home, tackling those exciting, twisty roads instead, where the car always feels planted. This car is a hardcore, focused performance or sports car for serious enthusiasts. It's far better suited to fun performance driving than to getting back and forth to work. The all-wheel drive system gives it incredible grip, but you need to keep the revs between 4,000 and 6,000 RPM to truly appreciate this car's performance and its sound. Responds to input, the way it corners, and the way it accelerates all combine to make you feel like you're in control of this car, not the other way around. It's an incredible feeling, and it's one of the main reasons why I just love this car. Now, I've only done a few minor mods, but all of them are a definite must. Now, that gas pedal extension so you can properly heel and tow, well, that's definitely a must. The rear bumper protector and XPEL paint protection film on the hood, front bumper, and flares on the rear doors to keep damage from stone chips to a minimum. In Canada, at least, the rubber floor mats come with the car in addition to the carpeted floor mats. Now, the carpeted floor mats, I didn't even put those in. I left them in the plastic bag and put them away for the next owner, because the rubber ones are so nice, so easy to clean, and clip right in that they're better than any rubber aftermarket floor mats I've ever seen. This is cool through here. Makes it feel like it's California or somewhere. But it's definitely not California. I've also added winter wheels and snow tires, and although there was only one choice for winter aftermarket wheels in the correct size, luckily they were black. The ones I purchased with their Blizzak snow tires makes this a fun car to drive winter and summer. But you know what? I absolutely hate that although this car's specifications, all-wheel drive system, and very sporty feel suggest that it would be fantastic for track days, when actually used for track days, within 15 minutes into your session, the rear differential overheats and it goes into limp home mode, which means now you're back to front wheel drive only as you head back to the pits and let it cool off before you can go on your next session. What a pain and what a letdown, Toyota. The other thing that I hate is that the passenger seat cannot be adjusted for height. Now, a lot of people have complained about the driver's seat being too high, even when adjusted to its lowest level. But my wife complains, by the way, my wife is 5'4" tall. My wife complains that the seat is too low. She feels she's sitting too low in the car. So it would be great if there'd be some height adjustment on the passenger seat, and throw in a bonus for those other guys, make the driver's seat adjust to go a little bit lower. In terms of cost, which by the way, I've converted from my Canadian dollars to your US dollars, I paid $44,289 for the car, which included the extended warranty with included service for the first 3 years. The door sill protectors, the cargo mat, and the net. Add the XPEL paint protection film on the hood, front bumper, and flares on the rear doors for $1,500. The snow tires and winter wheels with TPMS sensors at $2,250, and gas for $2,187, insurance at $1,029. Now I could likely sell this car today for $40,000. So my total cost of ownership in the first year is $11,655 or $1.17 per mile. Now, as you'd expect, since this car is a Toyota, this car has been bulletproof during the first year. No trips to the dealership for anything other than the 2 scheduled services, and those were covered by the included service agreement. I've daily driven this car 10,000 miles and taken it on longer trips with a mixture of 2-lane and 4-lane or more interstate highways, and absolutely loved it. It's a great performance car for the 2 of us, but if you're planning to use this as a commuter car, that loud exhaust and manual transmission would likely become a bit of a pain. Since I'm retired, I don't need to commute to an office with this car daily, but I just love how it makes local trips for shopping, visiting friends, or other errands an absolute driving event.
I just love my GR Corolla Circuit Edition, and it's the perfect daily driver for me. But if you're looking for something that's a little bit less sporty, has more room, more luxurious, quieter, and has an automatic transmission, this may not be the car for you. But great news for 2025, the GR Corolla is available with an 8-speed automatic transmission, and that might just make it best for you.
Yep, that's where they belong.
Now you need to click this video to learn how to easily and inexpensively fix the GR Corolla's biggest flaw, and I'll see you there. Any questions or comments? Add them down below.